When the fame of Jason and Loken spread throughout the imperial capital, they were nearly 100 miles away from the imperial capital. Here is a majestic mountain, stretching for hundreds of miles, and in the middle of the mountain is a mountain peak that towers into the sky. If someone looks up from the foot of the mountain, they can see that this huge peak rises straight into the sky. What can be seen is only half of the mountain, and the remaining half is hidden in the clouds. Like a sky-holding giant, standing in the mountains, holding up the sky. This is the most sacred place in the Salem Empire, the dream place of countless talented disciples, the holy land of the empire. In these mountains, there are countless palaces and mansions, densely packed, and on the mountainside of the main peak, shrouded in clouds and mist, there is a large palace complex. They are built on a large piece of rock extending from the mountain, forming it a small mountain city, and its uncanny craftsmanship give people a great spiritual shock. This city has an extremely resounding name, St. Cloud City. If the Holy Land of the Salem Empire is compared to the Alchemist Tower, then the status of the Holy Cloud City is the same as the status of the Sky City in the Alchemist Tower. It is where the holy sons of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire live, communicate, and practice. At this moment, in an open space in the center of Xingyun City, young and middle-aged people with amazing auras all over their bodies were slowly gathering together. Strong and powerful auras rose into the sky, some were hot, some were gentle, some were violent, some were cold, some were dark, and some were sacred. These people are the sons of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire, and each one is an 8th-level Emperor spirit. A strong man at the division level. Did you know? In our imperial capital, Jade City, a very powerful core disciple of the Medicine Master Tower seems to have appeared. In the square, many saints exchanged information with each other. I've heard about it too. Are you talking about that Jason? I heard that he looks very young and defeated the patriarch of the Downey family, Matt, who is an 8th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master, with one punch. What is even more hateful is that Bruni of the Downey family, who is known as the first disciple in the outer sect of our Holy Land, was killed by a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master named Loken of the Royal Spiritual Martial Academy. A genius, defeating him in 2 moves? He has completely disgraced our Holy Land. Now you don't know that the reputation of our Holy Land has been greatly affected in the imperial capital. Defeating Bruni in 2 moves? This isn't it possible? I've seen Bruni before, and he does have some skills. Although he is only a 7th-level high-level Emperor spiritual master, even compared with some saints who have just entered the 8th-level low-level Emperor spiritual master, he can still do a few tricks. How could he be defeated by someone with 2 moves? What's impossible? The 2 of them dueled openly in the duel field of the imperial capital. Hundreds of thousands of people in the imperial capital witnessed it with their own eyes. There was no fraud. Such a genius, it's a pity that it's not in our Holy Land, otherwise I really want to see it, but relatively speaking, I am more interested in Jason. Haha, I heard that the reason why Nalakan and Bruni dueled was because they both watched I fell in love with a girl named Falut from the Guras family, and even I became interested in Falut. By the way, Falut is Caswell's sister, right? If I marry Falut, if you get it, wouldn't you become Casver's brother-in-law, the brother-in-law of the first holy son of the Holy Land? Haha, this is a good title. One of the young men with handsome appearance and extraordinary bearing spoke with a smile on his face, but when he said something afterwards, he found that many people present were looking behind him with frightened eyes. The young man turned around hurriedly and saw a cold and arrogant man wearing simple linen clothes, with an indifferent face and eyes like bright stars, walking slowly towards him. Wherever they went, everyone in the square was silent and looked at the cold and arrogant man with awe. The atmosphere seemed to have suddenly entered the freezing cold from the scorching heat to the cold winter. Casper, that young man, is an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master, and he is also a quite powerful saint in the Holy Land. But when he saw this cold and arrogant man, his body couldn't help but trembled, and his face turned pale, his body shivered like chaff. He forced a smile on his face, and said with trembling lips, Casper, I was joking before he could finish his words. Buzz. A terrifying coercion descended on the world, and a powerful aura of spiritual power rushed out from the cold and arrogant man, and suddenly hit the young man. Pung. The young man didn't have time to resist, and was hit hard. His whole body was thrown away like a rag bag, blood spurted out of his mouth, and he hit the square not far away. Rocks splashed, the ground cracked, terrifying cracks spread, and a huge pit suddenly appeared on the ground. The young man lay at the bottom of the pit and kept vomiting blood. Looking at Caswall, his face was full of horror. Expression. If I hear you rant again, I will make you regret coming into this world. Casper looked cold and uttered a sentence in his mouth. Then he turned and walked away without even looking at the seriously injured young man. Casper, little brother Jacko is just joking with you, why don't you get so angry? At this moment, a feminine voice sounded, and a man with a feminine face was seen walking lightly. She had a little makeup on her face, lipstick and eyeshadow, and was dressed in gorgeous clothes. She looked extremely enchanting, but she didn't look as afraid of Caswall as the others. Chi-Du, an 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master, is the second holy son of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire. Caswall looked at him coldly. Hey, don't look at me with that look, it will make your heart beat wildly. Chi-Du pinched his orchid finger and said angrily. All the disciples present felt goosebumps on their bodies, but no one dared to speak out. Just then, in the distance of the square, a figure traveled through the space, coming like a fire dragon, rushing directly towards here. Before the fire dragon arrived, the temperature in the entire square suddenly rose by dozens of degrees, as if it had suddenly entered a big stove. Pung! The figure flashed out instantly, like a meteor falling to the ground, and landed on the square in an instant. The fire dragon landed, and all the flames spread out in all directions. The flames formed gorgeous flowers. Each flower was blown away by the wind and refracted. Uncover the mystery of the law. This was a burly man with fiery red, fluffy hair and a ferocious look. As soon as he appeared, he snorted coldly, Casper, Chi-Du, you two happen to be here. I heard that what happened to Jason? As the core disciple of the spiritual medicine master tower, Jason is so rampant in our Salem Empire. As the holy sons of the Holy Land, won't we restore the reputation of our Holy Land? The core of the spiritual medicine master tower. Disciple, the Twin Towers have always been known as the strongest force in the mainland. I really want to know how strong the disciples who came out of them are. Does it match his reputation? This burly man was none other than Damon, the third holy son of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire and the 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master. Boom! But just as the big man finished speaking, an unparalleled terrifying pressure suddenly descended from the top of the mountain and appeared on all the saints in the square. Listen, all the holy sons of the Holy Land. You are not allowed to trouble the core disciples of the spiritual medicine master tower without any reason. You are not allowed to challenge or compete. If you disobey, you will be severely punished. A majestic, soul-shaking voice came from the mountain peak. Passed from top to bottom, it penetrated continuously throughout the Holy Land. In the square, there were many holy sons who were talking to each other and preparing to challenge Jason. Their faces were all filled with astonishment. This aura, this is the power of the Holy Land. Which adult in the Holy Land issued the warning? We are not allowed to challenge Jason. Why? Many people expressed doubts in their hearts and talked aloud. Okay, let's all disperse. It seems there is no good show to watch. A holy son spoke out. What? Didn't that Lord say that you are not allowed to trouble Jason without any reason? In other words, if there is a reason, it is not impossible. Another holy son spoke up. Then you go and challenge. Who knows what is without reason and what is with reason? If the punishment is imposed, can you afford it? That's all. After all, in more than a year, there will be a trial for the geniuses of the major forces in the mainland, if Jason is really powerful, he will also appear among the disciples of the spiritual medicine master tower. I am not in a hurry. I will go back to practice now, the third Saint Damon snorted. What about you, Caswall? Go home. Casper said indifferently, looked at the mountain peaks in the clouds, and then his whole person instantly turned into a stream of light, flying towards the direction of the imperial capital, and in an instant, disappeared into the sky. Imperial capital, Shicheng district. If the East City is the aristocratic area of the imperial capital, then the West City is the most luxurious area of the imperial capital. Many foreign forces like to build their residences in the Shicheng district, and the Alchemist Tower is also built in the Salem Empire's Alchemist Guild. It's here. In the courtyard of the residential area, behind the General Association of Spiritual Medicine Masters, Jason and Loken were sitting there. With them, there was an old man with gray-white hair. Haha, Jason, after all, I am also the president of the Elixirist Union of the Salem Empire. You, the president of the Elixirist Union of the Rondo Province, did not pay me a visit first after you came to the imperial capital. It is really unreasonable. The gray-haired old man laughed. This person is the general president of the Salem Empire's Spiritual Medicine Master Guild sent by the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. His strength has reached the level of an 8th-level senior imperial spiritualist and an 8th-level low-level spiritual medicine imperialist. Those who can serve as presidents of the 4 major empires such as the Salem Empire are all extremely powerful figures. Just like this Coulson, such strength and knowledge of elixirs are enough to serve as a president in the Elixir Master Tower. Lord of the Palace. To be continued, but in front of Jason, this Coulson had no experience. Ching Hu, with Coulson's status in the Elixir Master Tower, naturally understood that Jason, a core disciple, was sent out to represent him. What? You must know that although Jason is only a core disciple in the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, equivalent to a holy son in the Holy Land of the Salem Empire, this is only in terms of strength and status. There is still a huge difference between them. Because no matter how powerful the Holy Son of the Holy Land is, after he comes out, he will at most become the protector of the empire and be admired by thousands of people, but he is just a guardian. However, the core disciples of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower have the ability to inherit the great legacy of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower. Qualifications. Especially core disciples like Jason who were sent out. If the Alchemist Tower is compared to an empire, then Jason is equivalent to the combination of the top saint sons and princes of the empire. His status is extraordinary. And Coulson can only be regarded as a high-status minister at best. Moreover, when Jason was given the position of president of the Alchemist Union of the province of Londo Province, the Alchemist Tower also informed Coulson and asked Coulson to provide Jason with certain support when necessary. Under such circumstances, this Coulson is familiar with himself and will not put on the airs of the president of the General Assembly in front of Jason. Haha, President Coulson is joking. Isn't my situation special? No, a general. After the urgent matters have been dealt with, I have come to seek refuge with you, and I still need the president to take care of me. Jason also smiled and said. After the duel, Loken immediately returned to the Royal Spiritual Martial Academy, held a graduation ceremony, and then followed Jason to the headquarters of the Imperial Capital Spiritual Medicine Masters Guild. Jason, I have already received the information about what you did in the Rondo Province. To be honest, when the Alchemist Tower was preparing to arrange you to the Rondo Province, I was still a little worried, for fear that you would not be able to do well, prepared to give you some help, but the result surprised me. He is indeed the most outstanding disciple in the tower. I thought that when he was your age, he was only a senior disciple. Coulson looked at Jason, his tone was very embarrassing, as if he had seen himself back then. President sir, a guard ran in and said respectfully, President, Master Simons of the Imperial Medicine Academy is outside the Union and said he wanted to visit Sir Jason. Master Simons? Jason's eyes lit up. Haha, it seems that your old friend is here to see you. Coulson also laughed, please invite Master Simmons, quickly. Coulson, who knew everything Jason had done in the Rondo province, naturally also knew the relationship between Jason and Simmons. At the same time, Jason and Coulson both stood up and walked to the front of the courtyard, while Loken also stood up and followed Jason. Haha, Master Jason, it's really, when did you arrive in the Imperial capital? You didn't come to see me. If I hadn't heard about what happened on the duel ground, I wouldn't have known that you had come to the Imperial capital. Outside the courtyard, before the waiter led Master Simmons in, and Master Simmons' bodyguard, Streep, followed him with his face still untattooed. Haha, haven't I just arrived in the Imperial capital? Jason laughed. Is this your disciple Luo Kun? Master Simons cast his eyes on Luo Kun. He is indeed a talented person. Lokuan has met the master. Luoquan hurriedly stepped forward and spoke respectfully. Among his peers, Luoquan seemed very arrogant, but in front of this older generation of master elixir masters, he was still extremely respectful. Zai has heard of your reputation in the Imperial capital, but I didn't expect that you are actually a disciple of Master Jason. This is our first meeting, but I didn't bring anything good. There is a bottle of spiritual potion here, which I will give you as a meeting gift. Okay. Master Simmons took out a bottle of spiritual potion from his body and handed it to Loken. This was a bottle of cyan spiritual potion, exuding an extremely rich spiritual power. With Jason and Cole, President Sen's eyes could tell at a glance that this was a bottle of 7th grade high-grade elixir, which was extremely effective for wood-type imperial spiritualists. In the courtyard, President Curson looked at it in surprise. Jason, as an 8th-level low-level elixir emperor, would not be surprised by a bottle of 7th-level imperial elixir. What surprised him was that a 7th-level high-level elixir like Simmons could be used by him. The Imperial Master took out such a bottle of elixir as a meeting gift for Loken. The identities of Jason and Master Simmons are probably extraordinary. Looking at this bottle of elixir that exuded a strong scent of elixir, Loken hesitated a little and looked at Jason aside. Master Simmons, you are too polite, Loken, why don't you? No thanks to Master Simmons. Jason said with a smile. Thank you, Master Simmons. Lokuan hurriedly spoke out, and after receiving Jason's agreement, he took the elixir. On the side, Jason took Master Zyman's arm. Haha, let's go, let's talk inside. The four of them sat down again, but Streep was still standing behind Simmons. President Coulson, Mr. President, you don't mind if you bother me, right? As soon as he sat down, Master Simmons smiled at President Coulson. Haha, Master Simmons is joking. Master, you have become famous in the Imperial capital recently, but no one knows it, and who doesn't know it? Coulson said with a smile, especially when the Master used 7th-level elixir materials to prepare a 7th-level Imperial elixir that is as effective as an 8th-level healing elixir, has been promoted to the 7th-level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master in a unique way. Even the boss is impressed by such an astonishing accomplishment. Haha, President Coulson is laughing. Well, if it weren't for Master Jason, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to prepare this new elixir. Simmons sighed with emotion. After communicating with Jason at the Rainbow Tower, he and Streep returned directly to the Imperial capital. When Jason went to Chi'er province, he had already prepared a new type of healing potion and advanced to the next level. He became a 7th-level high-level elixir master, and caused an extremely sensational effect in the Imperial Elixir Master Academy. He was even personally received by His Majesty, the Emperor Peter, who gave him a lot of rewards. Oh? Is there such a thing? Coulson looked at Jason curiously. President Coulson, don't listen to Simmons. I just gave him some trivial suggestions, which are nothing at all. Jason smiled. A trivial suggestion. Kelson Liao wanted to say something, but he saw the guard from before quickly came to the courtyard again, and hurriedly said, Master President, Prince Tyeria of the Empire and Ba Liondane Master, he said outside the guild gate that he wanted to visit Lord Jason. Why is Prince Tyeria here? Cole suddenly stood up. And Simmons also had a look of surprise on his face. If Prince Tyeria said he was coming 4 years ago, although Coulson and Simmons would be surprised, they would definitely not be as nervous as they are now. Because Prince Tyeria's talent was extremely poor at the beginning. Although he was extremely smart since he was a child and was deeply loved by His Majesty Peter, most people in the imperial capital were not optimistic that Prince Tyeria would succeed His Majesty Peter's throne. But 4 years ago, after Prince Tyeria went to Chi'er province, he suddenly awakened the blood in his body and became the first prince in the royal family of the Salem Empire to become a tiger-blood spiritual master again in the past 3,000 years. The royal family of the Salem Empire, the Ede family, is one of the 3 major bloodline families in the mainland, the tiger blood family. It has supreme glory, but since the last bloodline spiritual master died 3,000 years ago, no new bloodlines have appeared. Healer, this makes the Ode family, a royal family, quite distressed. Prince Tyeria turned out to be the first tiger-blooded spiritual master in the empire in thousands of years. His Majesty Peter was so excited when he first heard the news. The whole country celebrated together, and at the same time he loved Tyeria even more. Prince Tyeria did not disappoint His Majesty Peter's expectations. In 4 years, with his hard training and the help of many elixir masters from the Academy of Elixir, Prince Tyeria transformed from the 4th-level heavenly spirit after awakening in one fell swoop. The Imperial Spirit Master, who has advanced to the 7th level of intermediate level, has become the strongest among many princes. Coupled with Prince Tyeria's clever mind, now, Prince Tyeria has become the #1 prince in the Salem Empire. Immediately, a group of people marched toward the front hall and greeted him out. Not far from the front hall, I saw Prince Tyeria walking in a luxurious robe. Behind him, followed by Master Barandayan, Rodriguez with a cold expression, and a group of people. The team's bodyguards exuded an astonishing aura. Coulson and others walked forward quickly, and they all stepped forward and saluted. I have met His Royal Highness Prince Tyeria. Haha. Tyeria ignored Coulson, Simmons, and others, but came to Jason and gave him a bear hug. I didn't expect, Master Jason, you are actually the core disciple of the spiritual medicine Master Tower. You didn't come to see me when you came to the imperial capital. Why, you look down on Zytelia. I'm really unkind. Prince Tyeria laughed, with a smile on his face, and joked to Jason. Haha, I don't dare to look for you casually. I'm afraid that as soon as I walk to the entrance of the palace, I will be arrested by the guards of your Salem Empire. That will be troublesome. Jason also smiled and said, I heard that they are both the first princes of the empire, and they are also 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual masters. So what? Compared with you, Master Jason, I am afraid that I will be like the leader of Matt, unable to block any of your moves. Prince Tyeria laughed. In front of the hall, looking at this scene, Coulson, Simmons, and others were all stunned. This is still the gentle and elegant person in the mouth of all the people in the imperial capital. The wise and gentle Prince Tyeria? The arrival of Prince Tyeria made the atmosphere in the courtyard suddenly become more restrained. Normally, the masters of the Elixir Academy like Simons and Master Balandayan should not care about the prince. After all, Simmons and the others are 7th-level elixir masters, and they are not unknowns in the Imperial Elixir Academy. Although they are not as good as Rudolph, the kingdom's #1 elixir master, in the kingdom of Orlando, they are still, it should definitely be someone that ordinary princes need to treat with respect. But Prince Tyeria is different. As he has performed better and better over the years, he has been specially cultivated by His Majesty Peter. Although he has not explicitly announced it, he is almost equivalent to the status of a prince of a country. Although the prince, the emperor's son, but his status is obviously different. Everyone sat around each other and listened to the conversation between Prince Tyeria and Jason. Both of them casually recounted some of the things they had experienced. Prince Tyeria, in particular, has been quite excited since seeing Jason, which made President Coulson and Master Simmons confused about the relationship between Jason and Tyeria. Everyone, actually I came to the Emperor this time to meet my disciple Loken. After everyone talked with each other for a while, Jason suddenly spoke. The entire courtyard suddenly fell silent. Everyone, including Prince Tyeria and others, looked at Jason, wanting to see what he had to say. However, Loken on the side began to look excited. Looking at so many people present, Jason sighed slightly. I think everyone present should know about my disciple, Loken. He is in love with Falut of the Giras family. I think Thierry Princia and Master Ballandain should both know. Prince Tyeria and Master Ballandain both nodded. At the birthday party of Aludiba in Chiur province, they saw with their own eyes Loken and Falut flirting and being extremely intimate. Of relationship. Jason shook his head, but the Giras family doesn't know why, but they always disagree with the matter of Loken and Falut. You all also know the talent and strength of my disciple, Loken. The 23-year-old, I don't think he is a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master, not to mention in the Salem Empire, even in the entire continent. He is a talented person. His future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. I am not from the imperial capital, so I have no respect for Nagule. I don't know much about the C family. I wonder if any of you know why the Giras family rejected me as a disciple. Jason's eyes fell on everyone present. Originally, Jason's plan was to visit everyone present one by one and ask for solutions. Now that Prince Tyeria and others were gathered together, Jason did not hesitate and went straight to the point. In the courtyard, Luoquan was almost holding his breath, looking at everyone present with a somewhat nervous expression. Jason's eyes first fell on President Coulson beside him. Jason, I'm not familiar with the Giras family, and I've only heard about Loken, so I don't know much about it, Coulson said. Jason turned his head, and Master Simmons also shook his head. Finally, Jason set his sights on Prince Tyeria. If there was anyone present who was most likely to know the inside story, it was Prince Tyeria. Master Jason Tyeria considered it for a moment before speaking out. Master Ballandain told me about Loken 2 years ago, and you don't know that I also specifically asked Patriarch Blanchett of the Nagirs family about this matter, but Patriarch Blanchett did not tell me the specific reason. But, as far as I know, there are many people in the imperial capital pursuing Falut from the Girs family, and Clooney is just one of them. There are also some people who are better than him, who are also pursuing Falu. Among them, the only one I know about Falut is the eldest son of several major families in the imperial city. Secondly, there are several saints' sons from the Holy Land. Even one of my younger brothers is also pursuing Falut. What? As soon as Prince Yelia's words came out, everyone present was stunned, and Jason and Loken also had astonishment on their faces, as if they couldn't believe it. As a direct descendant of the Giras family, the first family in the Salem Empire, it is normal for Felt to be pursued by many powerful children in the empire. But now, according to Prince Tyeria, Felt's suitors are also serious. There are too many. In comparison, the Clooney that Loken defeated before is simply insignificant. Especially among Felt's suitors, there is Tyeria's brother. Who is Tyeria's brother? That was the prince of the empire. If Loken, the pursuer of the sun, could be surpassed by his talent, then what should Loken have to compare with a person like the prince of the empire? Seeing the shocked expression on Jason's face, Prince Tyeria spoke up, Master Jason, you have to know that the Giras family is the first family in our empire. Their status is extremely noble, unique, and very special. Not even the father can instruct the Shire's family to do anything at will. They are the best candidates for countless families and forces in the empire to marry, and Falut's identity is also very special. She is not just a member of the Girs family, an ordinary direct descendant, but the biological niece of the current patriarch of the Girs family, Patriarch Blanchett. Patriarch Blanchett only has one son, Caswall. Falut's parents died early, and Patriarch Blanchett has always regarded her as Philute treats her as her own daughter, so the people who pursue her are even more powerful. Therefore, even though I am the prince of the empire, I can't make any more decisions about this matter. You don't know, at the time, my father you also asked me what I thought of Felt. From this point on, you should know how special Na Felt is. Prince Tieria said softly. That's it. In the courtyard, Jason's brows couldn't help but frown deeply. He originally thought that it was because Loken's background was too low that the Gura's family did not agree with the matter between the two, but he did not expect that Falute's status in the Gura's family was so special, and that the pursuer would be so numerous. Chief Blanchett treats Felt as his own daughter, which means that no matter which family gets Felt, they can be tied to the Gura's family and a warship like the first family of the empire. Moving forward together, what a temptation this is. Even His Majesty Peter of the Salem Empire asked Prince Tieria what he thought of Felt, which was enough to show that Felt was special. However, when I asked about it more than a year ago, Loken was only a 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master. Now, he is already a 7th-level high-level imperial spiritual master, and he has even defeated the #1 emperor in the Holy Land like Cluny. Disciple, the talent is enough to attract the attention of the Gura's family. Now, it depends on whether Loken's status in the eyes of the Gura's family can be compared with the sons of the Holy Land and the top families of the empire. Compared with his younger brothers. Prince Tieria added, as for my younger brother, Master Jason, you don't have to worry about it at all. Huh? Jason raised his head with a confused expression. Prince Tieria smiled and said, my younger brother can only be regarded as average among many princes. The reason why he pursues Falute is to increase his support. However, my father will not agree. The most he will do in the future is it's just a prince. With the Gur's family status in the empire, they don't care about a prince at all. Relatively speaking, Loken still has certain advantages. In the end, Prince Tieria concluded, just look at what the Reese family thinks. Of course, these are just my speculations, but I think the reason why the Guriais family rejected Loken is probably because of this. In the courtyard, Loken's fists clenched tightly. Once again, he felt his weakness. If he could be as good as his master, then the Gura's family would not refuse. In the final analysis, Loken's performance did not attract the attention of the Gura's family. In the courtyard, Jason lowered his head and pondered for a long time, with ideas passing through his mind. Finally, he raised his head, looked at Tieria and said solemnly, Tieria, I have a request. Master Jason, if you need any help, just ask. Prince Tieria looked at Jason. Jason looked at Tieria. I hope you can arrange a meeting between me and Loken and the Nagyr's family. Let's meet with Chief Blanchett. Meet? Prince Tieria was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Master Jason, actually, besides meeting you, I have another thing to do here today. My father heard about the duel between Loken and Cluny, so he decided to summon you and Loken, masters, to the Lingwu Palace tomorrow, tonight Loken. By then, many nobles in the imperial capital would come, and Nabu Chief Blanchett is also here, and you will naturally be able to see Chief Blanchett then. Coning a knighthood for Loken? What does His Majesty Peter mean? In the courtyard, Jason and Loken said to each other. After taking a look, everyone was stunned. They don't understand how His Majesty Peter of the Salem Empire suddenly thought of knighting Loken. After all, there are too many geniuses in an empire. Although Loken's performance is eye-catching, he is only a 7th-level senior and imperial spiritualist, rather than an 8th-level imperial spiritualist, is at best equivalent to a top-ranking holy son in the Holy Land. His Majesty Peter will not be knighted himself, right? Loken is a subject of my Saren Empire, and he is so young, but he has such accomplishments. It is not a big deal for my father to knight Loken, right? Prince Tieria said with a smile, is it true that you, master, are only allowed to accept disciples, but we, the Salem Empire, are not allowed to be knighted? Hearing what Prince Tiresias said, Jason, whose face was originally full of doubts, suddenly understood, and then his face suddenly showed a dumbfounding expression. It turns out that the problem still lies with me. He is the core disciple of the Elixir Master Tower, but he accepted Loken as his disciple. It would be fine if Loken was just an ordinary genius, but in the duel field, his performance was too dazzling. His Majesty Peter was afraid that he would turn him into a disciple. People from the Salem Empire were kidnapped. However, for Loken, this case can be said to be a good thing. With His Majesty Peter's personal summons and knighthood, at least his status and identity will have a qualitative rise in the imperial city. By then, he will be with Gures. The Blanchette family leader also felt more confident when communicating. With the news brought by Prince Tiresias, the atmosphere in the courtyard suddenly became much more lively, and Jason no longer focused on Loken's affairs, but started talking to everyone. After a while, Prince Tiresias and others said goodbye one by one. Jason sent everyone to the entrance of the Union before returning to the courtyard. Don't worry, I believe that with your talent and strength, you will eventually impress the Gures family. Looking at the somewhat silent Loken, Jason patted his shoulder and said. Loken looked up at Jason, his eyes filled with gratitude. Master, thank you. Loken bowed deeply to Jason in the courtyard. You idiot. Jason smiled and shook his head, with a hint of doting in his eyes. And when Jason and Loken were in the Elixir Guild, the news that His Majesty Peter was going to knight Loken spread quickly throughout the imperial capital like the wind. The next day, many upper-class nobles in the imperial capital got up early, dressed in noble and luxurious clothes, and set off in carriages to the palace. Today the emperor was going to confer Loken, which was a big event. It is a great honor to be personally knighted by His Majesty the Emperor, especially young people. Since His Majesty Peter came to power, the number of young people who have been personally knighted will not exceed 10 fingers. The vast majority of them are the top saints' sons in the Holy Land of the Empire who have reached the level of 8th level Senior Emperor Spiritual Master. And Luo Kuan is the first to be canonized as a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master. However, no one had any objections to this knighthood. Loken's performance in the duel was really too amazing. As the first disciple of the Imperial Holy Land, Clooney represents the most promising among the younger generation. The talented 7th level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master was defeated after just 2 moves at Nalakan's hands. Such talent was enough to shock the entire empire. Although Luoquan is now a 7th level high-level Imperial Spiritual Master, he is also only 23 years old. For such a genius, it is only a matter of time before he reaches the 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master, and his future is limitless. Therefore, in the minds of many nobles, the knighthood of Loken can be regarded as His Majesty Peter advancing the original time. Of course, there are some nobles who are smarter than Dai, and they can also smell some things from the identity of Loken Jason's disciples. Of course, these things cannot be said out loud, just know it well. Lingwu Hall is a relatively famous place in the palace of the Salem Empire. In the Stern Continent, the strong are respected, and the major empires on the mainland also attach great importance to force. Therefore, this Lingwu Hall is where Emperor Peter of the Empire summoned him early. A place for imperial courtiers. It is said that the name of Lingwu Palace was named after the founding emperor of the Salem Empire. Early in the morning, Jason and Loken rode the Elixir Guild's carriage, arrived at the entrance of the palace with Coulson, and then walked into the palace. Ordinary imperial nobles are not eligible to participate in such a canonization. Those who can participate are status and powerful figures. As the president of the Imperial Alchemist Union, Coulson, although he is not a subject of the Salem Empire, also included in the invitation. Lingwu Hall was originally an extremely spacious hall, but when hundreds of nobles and ministers gathered together, it was no longer empty. The entire hall was filled with people. Loken, congratulations, congratulations. This must be Master Jason from the Alchemist Tower. He is indeed young and promising. In the center of the hall, many people gathered around Luokuan and Jason and greeted him enthusiastically. When they greeted each other, these people basically didn't know each other before, but that didn't hinder their enthusiasm. They all seemed to be friends for many years and were extremely polite. Although Loken is just a small family from the Chi'er province in the south of the empire, at the age of only 23, he has reached the 7th level of the Imperial Spiritual Master. He even defeated Bruni, the first disciple of the Holy Land, and he has become the leader of the empire. The title of the first Imperial Spiritualist, and now that he has been canonized by His Majesty Peter, his future prospects are limitless. As time goes by, nobles arrive one after another, and Master Simons and Master Ballandain, as masters of the Elixir Master Academy and 7th level Elixir Masters, are also qualified to participate in such canonization. The only thing is to get together with Jason. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion at the entrance of the palace. A middle-aged man with sword-shaped eyebrows, blue hair, and silver-white robes walked into the hall, causing the nobles around him to come forward one after another. Greet. Master Jason, Loken, this is Patriarch Blanchett of the Gers family, the first family in the empire, and a peak 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master. From the side, Master Simmons spoke softly in Jason's ear. That's him? A glimmer of light flashed in Jason's eyes, while Loken looked a little excited. He is the one who can truly decide the matter between himself and Felt. Blanchett walked into the hall with long strides. She seemed to feel something and looked at Jason and Loken in the center of the hall. A smile immediately appeared on Jason's face. Blanchett also smiled, and then walked aside, instead of coming to congratulate like ordinary nobles. Indeed, with his status and identity, there is indeed no need to congratulate a junior. Your Majesty has arrived. At this moment, a high-pitched voice suddenly came from inside the hall. Your Majesty is here. Many nobles immediately stood up quickly and formed a neat queue to greet His Majesty, the Emperor respectfully. Peter Ode, the current Emperor of the Salem Empire, can be regarded as a rather wise majesty. He acts impartially and selflessly, and has an excellent reputation in the eyes of the people of the empire. From behind the Lingwu Palace, a middle-aged man wearing imperial robes walked out with a swift pace. It was Emperor Peter. Behind him, Prince Tieria walked out respectfully. Peter is also a big man, about 1.8 meters tall. He is relatively tall, with a small beard. Although his eyes are not big, they are piercing and full of energy. He has an aura that is not angry but powerful, and gives him a sense of power. People are inexplicably shocked. Imperial power, the majesty of the Emperor. As the Emperor of the Salem Empire, Peter's own strength is not weak. He is an 8th level low-level Emperor, spiritual master. However, when he sits on the throne while panting in his royal robe, his aura is stronger than that of some others. The 8th level advanced Emperor Spirit Falcon is much more intimidating. Haha, where is Loken? As soon as Emperor Peter sat down on the throne, he laughed and looked down. There were hundreds of people below, and Peter couldn't find Loken for a while. Loken hurriedly walked out of the crowd, stood in the center of the hall, knelt down respectfully and said, Loken pays homage to His Majesty the Emperor. Peter looked carefully. He glanced at Lokuan and praised, sure enough, you are a 23-year-old 7th level senior imperial spiritual master. You are the youngest senior imperial spiritual master in our Salem Empire. Taiziah is also 23 years old this year, but he is only a 7th level intermediate imperial spiritual master. Compared with you, he is still a little behind. Your Majesty, thank you. His Royal Highness Prince Tieria is a famous tiger blood spiritual master, one of the 3 major blood spiritual masters in the mainland. First, I, a 7th level senior imperial spiritual master, can bluff others, but if I really want to compare with His Royal Highness Prince Tieria, I am actually far behind. Loken said modestly. Haha. His Majesty Peter laughed loudly immediately. As the only tiger-blood spiritualist in the royal family for 3,000 years, Tyeria has always been the most proud thing in Peter's heart. Now that Loken said this, how could he not happy? Loken, I have heard about your duel with Bruni. Such a talent is a blessing to our Saren Empire. I am very happy. Now I will grant you the hereditary Earl title of the Empire. There is another mansion in the city, with 100 guards and maids each, and 100 million spiritual coins. The Emperor also heard that you are from Tianhong City in Chi'er Province, and your father is Kester of the Mori family. I will appoint you Mori again. The patriarch of the family, Kester, is the Lord of Rainbow City and holds the title of Viscount. Peter said loudly. The people around looked at Luoquan with envy, and there was also a hint of surprise in their hearts. Generally, when a noble title is passed down from generation to generation, the title will be downgraded. If the descendants are not strong and have no ability, they will be downgraded. Within a few generations, they will lose their power. The hereditary title is different. It is absolutely not downgraded. The title of a hereditary earl is much more important than the title of a marquis. As for the title of Viscount and Lord of Kester's Rainbow City, it is nothing. Thank you, Your Majesty. Loken said respectfully with some excitement. He could imagine his father's happy appearance. Loken, I am in a good mood today. Haha, tell me, what else do you want? As long as it is reasonable, the Emperor will definitely agree. Peter's voice resounded throughout the Lingwu Hall. And everyone in the Lingwu Hall couldn't help but focus on Luo Kuan. In fact, Peter's words were just a face-saving speech. Everyone who was canonized would be asked, but they would all say thank you. Your Majesty will not ask for any more gifts from His Majesty. After all those who deserve to be rewarded have already been rewarded. But everyone present knows that Loken likes Felt of the Gura's family. Many people are afraid of this Loken. He made this request directly without knowing the reason. You must know that although Peter is the Emperor of the Salem Empire, Falut is a child of the Gurs family, the first family in the Empire. If he and Golo Kuan made this request, even Peter Your Majesty can't do it either. It's more difficult than marrying a princess from the Empire directly. If you really want to make this request, then, I'm afraid even His Majesty Peter won't be able to come to Taiwan. Thank you for your gift. Loken has no requirements, Luoquan said loudly. Huh. Most of the people in the hall exhaled a long breath secretly. Haha, okay. His Majesty Peter had a smile on his face. In this case, Loken, please step aside first. Having a genius like you in our Salem Empire is really a blessing to us, Loken. You must work hard to practice in the future, Loken, to benefit our Salem Empire. A people. His Majesty Peter spoke seriously. Yes, thank you for your grace. Loken stood up and then retreated into the crowd. On the side, the corner of Jason's mouth couldn't help but twitch. His Majesty Peter, what he said was really explicit. He almost didn't say directly, Loken, you are a member of my Salem Empire, you must devote yourself to the Empire. After Loken retreated, His Majesty Peter looked at the crowd again in the main hall. I heard that among the many people present today, there is also a noble guest from the Alchemist Tower, President Coulson. I don't know who among the people present is the core disciple of your Alchemist Tower, the one from the province of London. President of the Alchemist Guild, Master Jason? His Majesty Peter spoke again. Although his tone was questioning, his eyes fell on Jason next to Loken. Jason's youthful appearance and long black hair are easily recognized among the many middle-aged nobles and old people with gray beards and hair. Among the crowd, Jason smiled slightly, and then walked to the center of the hall. Peter, the Emperor of Serendi, has been very familiar with Jason's name in the past 2 days. Unlike ordinary families, if you want to obtain information about Jason, you have to go through various channels. As the Emperor of the Salem Empire, Peter only needs to open his mouth, and all the information about Jason in the Salem Empire can be obtained in a matter of seconds. appeared on his desk. The master of the Empire's #1 genius imperial spiritualist Loken, the president of the Londo Province's Spiritual Medicine Master Guild, and a core disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, he defeated the patriarch of the Downey family, Matt, who was an 8th-level intermediate imperial spiritualist, with one move. When this news reached His Majesty Peter's ears, Peter was also filled with admiration after learning about Jason's deeds. Now see Jason Meadows walking out. What a talent! His Majesty Peter admired in his heart. Whether it was his figure or his restrained temperament, in Peter's opinion, there was indeed a unique temperament and demeanor in it. I have met your Majesty. When he came to the center of the hall, Jason did not kneel down like Lokuan did, but bowed slightly and said, his face calm, and he did not have the fear that ordinary people would have when seeing an emperor. In his previous life, Jason was a 9th-level elixir master and the #1 person in the mainland. What kind of person has he not seen before? Even Alexander the Great of the Lingdo Empire, the only empire on the mainland, had to go to Halloween Mountain to visit him in person if he wanted to see him. Although Peter was also the emperor of the Salem Empire, one of the 4 major empires on the mainland, he still couldn't get along with Alexander the Great, who unified the continent. Then he just stood quietly in the center of the hall, with a master's bearing on his body, which surprised everyone in the hall. This Jason on the throne of the main hall, feeling the aura from Jason, His Majesty Peter couldn't help but admire in his heart. As the emperor of the Salem Empire, one of the 4 major empires in the mainland, he is not an ordinary kingdom. King, what kind of person genius has never seen before? Arrogant, low-key, and gentle, but no matter how talented these geniuses are outside, when they arrive at Lingwu Palace, they are all trembling and nervous when they see him. They are the top saints in the Holy Land. It was the same when ZZ saw him for the first time, but now Jason was just standing in the middle of the hall. What His Majesty Peter saw in his eyes was only indifference, a kind of indifference that had truly experienced big storms, fearless and unconcerned, rather than the composure that ordinary people pretended to be in front of themselves. Oh, why is this Jason not a citizen of the Empire? His Majesty Peter couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Unbridled. However, at this moment, the palace attendant serving His Majesty Peter shouted, and his high-pitched voice echoed in the hall, "You can't kneel down when you see your Majesty?" Jason's indifferent gaze swept over, and the palace attendant felt as if he had gone from the warm Lingwu Palace to the cold outside the main hall, and couldn't help but shudder. This is not Jason pretending to be arrogant, after all, he is not the 9th level now. Spiritual Medicine Master. However, Jason, who is the core disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, is not a citizen of the Salem Empire. When he comes to the Salem Empire, he represents the dignity of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower and is equivalent to the special envoy of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower. Even if Peter is the emperor of a country, and Jason does not need to kneel down, he only needs to bow and salute. In the hall, the originally relaxed atmosphere suddenly became tense, and everyone focused their attention on Jason and His Majesty Peter. Haha, I have admired a master like Jason for a long time, so there is no need to kneel down. His Majesty Peter glanced at the waiter next to him, and the waiter immediately stopped talking. His Majesty Peter stood up and walked down the hall. Speaking of which, I would also like to thank you, Master Jason, but we have never had the chance to meet you. Now, at first sight, it was indeed extraordinary. I heard that the master was the core disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Master Pagoda. I wonder what state the master has reached now. Jason smiled and said, Your Majesty, I am actually a 7th-level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master like Luo Kuan. 7th-level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master? His Majesty Peter was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, Master Jason, I heard that you defeated the Downey family's horse with one move during the duel between Loken and Clooney. Patriarch Tay? His Majesty Peter had a look of disbelief on his face, and the other nobles in the hall were buzzing with discussions. His Majesty Peter even used his 8th level low-level spiritual consciousness to scan Jason's eyes. The result is that the spiritual power fluctuations in Jason's body are indeed only a 7th level senior imperial spiritual master. That's just my luck, but I am indeed a 7th level senior imperial spiritual master. Jason smiled. A fluke? Many nobles couldn't help but curse in their hearts. He, a high-level imperial spiritual master, defeated Matt, an 8th level intermediate emperor spiritual master, with one move in the duel, and now he said it was a fluke. If these words reached the ears of Patriarch Matt, I am afraid that Patriarch Matt would be so depressed that he would burst into tears. Ahem, His Majesty Peter coughed twice. After all, it was a strong man in his empire who was defeated by Jason. He changed the subject and said, Master Jason, he came from the spiritual medicine master tower. He must also be a spiritual medicine master? No. Do you know the master's attainments in elixirs? Jason smiled lightly and said, Your Majesty, Master Simmons should be very clear about my attainments in elixirs, comma. Oh? His Majesty Peter set his sights on Simmons not far away. Your Majesty. Simmons immediately walked out. I was in the province of Toronto a few days ago, and I had a duel with Master Jason on elixirs. I deeply admire Master Jason's attainments in elixirs. Jason. The master is so young and is already a 7th level master of elixirs. His attainments in elixirs are even better than mine. The reason why I was able to prepare that new type of healing potion was because of Master Jason's guidance. Guidance and inspiration. Wow. At this moment, the whole hall was completely boiling, and everyone looked at Jason in shock. What is the concept of a 7th level high-level elixir master? That is definitely the most top-notch existence. Masters of the Imperial Medicine Academy, such as Simmons and Balandayan, are only at this level. And Simmons is quite famous even among all the 7th level high-level elixir masters in the Empire. The only ones better than him are the 8th level elixir masters, who are like antiques. As for Jason's attainments in elixirs, Master Simmons admitted that he was better than him. What kind of identity and status does this have? 7th level senior imperial spiritual master, 7th level senior elixir master. Even His Majesty Peter was stunned. He looked at Jason in surprise and said, I wonder how old you are, Master Jason? Jason, after hesitating for a moment, he finally said, Your Majesty Peter, I am 24 years old this year. 24. Everyone in the hall looked at each other with wonderful expressions on their faces, and many nobles even opened their eyes. Eyes widened, looking very strange. Master Simmons, the youngest 7th level master of elixirs in history, at what age did he break through? His Majesty Peter asked in the main hall. Master Simmons immediately said respectfully, Your Majesty, according to the known records, in the history of the mainland for thousands of years, the smallest 7th level senior elixir master was a peerless genius in the elixir master tower more than 3,000 years ago. He was 30 years old. I entered when I was 2 years old. 32 years old, 32 years old. His Majesty Peter's expression was very speechless, and then he couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect Master Jason to be the most outstanding elixir genius on the continent, the first genius elixir master. Jason smiled and said, Your Majesty, the world is full of geniuses, and I was lucky enough to be promoted to the 7th level of the elixir master. Maybe there are even more talented elixir masters, but we just don't know. Jason generally doesn't believe these so-called historical records, because the major forces in the entire continent are entangled, and the information between each other is not very transparent and open. Just like Jason, if Peter doesn't ask today, no one will know. At the age of 24, he was a 7th level senior imperial spiritual master and a 7th level senior elixir master. Moreover, Master Simmons said that the youngest 7th level advanced elixir master in the history of the continent broke through at the age of 32, and Jason also disagreed. At least, according to Jason's understanding, the core disciples of the Elixir Master Tower are currently ranked second. Cassinus, who has reached the 8th level of Elixir Master and is now only 35 years old. He has advanced to the 7th level. The time to become a senior Elixir Master is earlier than the 32-year-old Simons mentioned. And Lanuigusan is even worse than Cassinus. Therefore, this so-called first in history is only compiled by some historians based on limited information, and its authenticity is actually very low. Lucky, lucky. When Jason said the word lucky again, all the nobles of the Salem Empire in the hall had speechless expressions. If they were lucky enough to get first place, they would also like to get lucky twice. After His Majesty Peter's questions and answers, everyone in the hall looked at Jason differently. Even the Blanchett clan chief also looked at Jason frequently. His status as a 7th-level senior elixir master was really too intimidating, especially since Jason was still so young. You must know that in this era when elixir masters were not born, the most top elixir masters on the mainland today are only 8th-level elixir emperors, and Jason has reached the 7th-level advanced elixir emperor at such a young age. Although he cannot be said to be an ironclad master, he will become an 8th-level elixir master in the future. However, he is still inseparable. By then, his status will be completely different. It is a pity that Jason is from the Alchemist Tower. Otherwise, His Majesty Peter would have wanted to immediately knight Jason and tie him to an Imperial battleship like Loken did. What His Majesty Peter hopes most now is for Jason to suddenly tell him that he has fallen in love with a princess from the Salem Empire. Then His Majesty Peter would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. Tieria, as the prince of our Salem Empire, Master Jason rarely comes to the Empire once. In the past 2 days, you should take him to visit the Imperial capital and appreciate the customs of our Salem Empire. In the Lingwu Palace, His Majesty Peter exchanged words with Jason again, and then gave instructions to Tieria behind him. Yes, father. Tieria said respectfully. His Majesty Peter's retreat represented the completion of the canonization ceremony. In the Lingwu Hall, many nobles left the Lingwu Hall one by one in order. Jason, Loken, Tieria, Simmons and others were walking inside the palace. Prince Tieria smiled and said, "Master Jason, this is the first time I have seen my father so shocked. You have treated my father so well. The Imperial capital is shocked. The 24-year-old 7th-level senior elixir master is so perverted. I don't know how you practice." Thierry Shangjen sighed with emotion. To be honest, Jason is 24 years old and is a 7th-level high-level Imperial spiritual master. Although he is a genius, it is nothing. After all, Loken and Tieria are only 23 years old, and one is a 7th-level high-level Imperial spiritual master, and the other is a 7th-level intermediate Emperor Spirit Master. Even in the Holy Land of the Empire, although there are not as exaggerated as them, there are some who have reached the 7th level of senior Imperial spiritual masters before the age of 30. But for a 24-year-old 7th-level senior elixir master, that is a bit exaggerated. It's almost frightening to say it out loud. No one knows how scary Jason's future will be. By the way, Master Jason, you're not married yet, are you? Have you fallen in love with any princess from our empire? If so, tell me quickly and I will help you propose marriage to your father, and I promise to help you get it done. Tai Prince Leah said excitedly, "If not, you can look like it now. Let me tell you, I have several sisters, they are all beautiful and have good personalities, gentle and considerate, spicy, tough, petite and charming, mature and enchanting. You can find whatever type you like." Tieria began to match Jason. On the side, Jason couldn't help but have black lines on his face, while Simmons and others also looked forward to raising Prince Tieria speechlessly. Everyone quickly arrived outside the palace. Outside the palace, many nobles were saying goodbye to each other and preparing to return home. Jason saw Chief Blanchett in the crowd at a glance. After looking at each other with Prince Tyeria, Jason and the others immediately walked up quickly. Chief Blanchett, wait. Prince Tyeria called out to Chief Blanchett. It turns out to be Your Highness Tyeria. Chief Blanchett stopped and said with a smile on his face, Your Highness, stop me, what's the matter? Many nobles around looked at Jason. The group of people, however, did not dare to look any further and left without lingering. Haha, that's it. Chief Blanchett, it was Master Jason who asked the chief about something. Father asked me to accompany Master Jason, so naturally I came with Master Jason. Tyeria smiled. Make a sound. It turns out that I admire geniuses like Master Jason very much. A smile appeared on the face of the Blanchett clan leader. He glanced at Jason and Loken beside him and said, Let's just find a place to sit. To be honest, I'm also very curious about the Alchemist Tower. Haha, okay, this is the palace, I'm familiar with it, I'll show you a good place. Thierry Prince immediately smiled. On the side, Simmons, Ballandain and Coulson immediately saw the opportunity to leave. Then Jason, Loken and Blanchett, led by Prince Tyeria, walked not far away. A moment later, in a luxurious tea house near the palace, the four Jasons sipped tea and sat down. I wonder what Master Jason is asking for this time? Chief Blanchett said with a smile. Clan Blanchett. Jason didn't want to waste time with Blanchett, so he got straight to the point. Clan Chief Blanchett also knows about my relationship with Loken. Chief Blanchett, my disciple, and don't blame me for talking too much about Falut. I want to ask, what's going on? I wonder if you can tell me. If not, forget it. In the room, Prince Tyeria and Loken both looked at Chief Blanchett. Blanchett looked at Jason, squinted her eyes and thought for a moment, and then said, I also know about Felt and Loken, but it's actually nothing. Since you asked about it, Master Jason, I'll tell you. Huh? Jason and the others' eyes couldn't help but light up. It seems that there is indeed a reason why Chief Blanchett prevented Falut and Loken from being together. Falut is my eldest brother's female heart. Chief Blanchett took a sip of tea, as if she was lost in memories, and slowly said, My eldest brother and I have a very good relationship, he is extremely talented, and he is also very talented. Above me, he has always been the designated successor of the family. However, he did not like the feeling of being bound by the family and gave me the position of patriarch. However, he himself traveled across the mainland and died in an accident at a young age. He died young. When he left, Falut was only 3 years old. I only have one son, and I have always regarded Falut as my daughter. The three of Jason listened silently. Falut has inherited the excellent blood of our Gers family. She is extremely talented, but I have never put any pressure on her. I just want her to live a carefree life. I have not even given her any medication to improve my health. A magical elixir for cultivation. Blanchett looked at Loken and said, Loken, you met Falut in Rainbow City, right? Lokuan nodded. Blanchett smiled and said, Falut came to Rainbow City with my father, her grandfather Odlin, since she was a child, and lived a leisurely childhood life. If it were the family's, it is simply impossible for other geniuses to enjoy such treatment. Despite this, at only 22 years old, she has now reached the 7th level of low-level banquet spiritual master. A 7th level low-level imperial spiritual master? Jason and others had surprise on their faces. You must know that Luoquan is a wood spirit body and has his own help. Although he stopped practicing for a few years, he was only a 7th level low-level emperor spiritual master who was promoted at the age of 21. Prince Tyeria is one of the 3 major bloodline spiritual masters in the mainland. With the help of countless elixir masters in the empire, he is now a 7th level intermediate imperial spiritual master at the age of 23. However, this Falut has no pressure, is not diligent in training, and has not taken any spiritual potions. However, at the age of 22, he became a 7th level low-level imperial spiritual master. with such talent, he can compete with someone like Loken. His physique is incredible. For a genius like Falut, if placed in an ordinary family, it would definitely be a priority to cultivate, but in Argur's family, it is not necessary at all. Argur's family is the first family in the empire and has nothing to pursue. There is no need for a junior to support him. Moreover, Prince Tyeria also knows that my son Caswell's talent is also amazing. At only 32 years old, he is now an 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master. He is the first holy son of the Holy Land of the Empire. Patriarch Blanchette smiled and said, although Tyrant has a special status, she is a direct child of the family, and her talent is amazing, but for Argura's family, there is no need to go through her. What benefits can we gain from the marriage? What's more, my father Odlin dotes on her, so as long as she likes her spouse, I will not object. Jason and others looked at Blanchette in confusion. What do these words mean? If you didn't object, why did you stop Felt and Loken? If Felt didn't like Loken, Jason wouldn't believe it at all. After all, he had seen that the relationship between Felt and Loken was very unusual, and if they don't like Loken, there is no need for the Gers family to deny the two of them a meeting in the past 2 years. They just need to let Falut come out and tell Loken that she doesn't like him. Then with Loken's character, he will naturally retreat and won't hold on to it. It wasn't me who stopped Felt and Loken. Chief Blanchette looked at Jason solemnly. It was Samuel, the great elder of our family. Samuel, the great elder? Tyeli stood aside. Princhia couldn't help but be a little surprised. Jason and Loken both looked at him. Samuel, the great elder of the Gers family, is also an elder in the Holy Land of our Salem Empire. He is a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master. Tylea said seriously. Chief Blanchette nodded. Although I am the leader of a clan, I have to listen to the words of the great elder. Even my father Odlin, although he really wants Felt and Loken to be together, because of the great elder, I have no choice but to obey, because my father's strength is not high. In the room, Luo Kuan's heart suddenly sank. Well, let's deal with Loken's matter immediately. By the way, a certain character will appear in 2 days. Hey, everyone can guess who it is. Jason's face is still calm. In Luo Kuan's mind, the 9th-level Holy Spirit Master is almost a godlike existence, but in Jason's mind, although the 9th-level Holy Spirit Master was powerful, it was not an unreachable goal. A person's different insights will lead to different responses to problems. In the room, Jason frowned slightly and asked, Chief Blanchette, I wonder if Elder Samuel told you what the reasons were when he made this decision? Jason wanted to what he knows is the reason. As long as there is a reason, there is a solution. Moreover, he has also decided in his heart that if Samuel really disagrees with the matter between Loken and Falut, he will use the magic potion to solve the problem. Force the other party to agree. As long as Samuel refuses Felt and Loken to be together, it is not a big issue of life and death. Jason believes that in the face of the elixir he prepared, even if Samuel is a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, and the other party simply couldn't refuse. In this regard, Jason is fully sure and confident. Chief Blanchette shook his head. Falut is my biological niece, so I am naturally very concerned about her affairs. At first, I also asked Elder Samuel and even argued with him, but in the end, he didn't tell me the reason, and he imprisoned Falut in the family's forbidden area. In the family's forbidden area? Loken said in surprise, with a worried look on his face. Blanchette glanced at Lokuan. Actually, I'm very optimistic about you, Lokuan. No matter what, you and Falut are a perfect match. What's more important is that Falut likes you. Every time she returns to the family, she will talk to my uncle about what happened between her and you in Rainbow City. Seeing her happy face makes me really happy, but I can't make the final decision about the two of you. Speaking of this, there was a hint of sadness in Blanchette's tone. He regards Felt as his own daughter, and he also likes Felt to be happy. In fact, regarding Samuel's strong opposition to Loken and Felut at the beginning, and even using the authority of the Great Elder to suppress the decision of him, the Patriarch, even after failing to dissuade him, Blanchett in my mind, I still thought of a possibility. It was precisely because of this possibility that he, who loved felt so much, had to compromise in front of the Great Elder, but this possibility was not something he could tell Jason and the others. Seeing Blanchett's somewhat sad expression, with Jason's eyes, he could naturally see that everything Blanchett said was true, and those emotions were also his true feelings. Then the question was really, it happened to the Great Elder. In the room, Lokuan showed a trace of distress and worry on his face. He originally thought that he was not good enough and was not favored by the Gers family. But now that he heard what Chief Blanchett said, this was not the case at all, and even Chief Blanchett was incompetent in this matter, which made Loken feel a huge difficulty. Master. Loken looked at Jason with some confusion, wanting to see if Jason had any good ideas. Although he also knew that even the Blanchett clan leader couldn't do something, Jason wanted to regain his roots. It was impossible, but in this despair, Loken still couldn't help but think of Jason. Prince Tyeria and Chief Blanchett also looked at Jason. Chief Blanchett, Jason said after pondering for a moment, I have something to trouble you with. What is it? Just ask. I hope to meet Samuel, the elder of the Gures family. Be an elder. Jason said. You want to see Elder Samuel? Blanchett couldn't help being a little surprised. Since the problem lies with Elder Samuel, I want to make my last effort. This shouldn't be a big problem. Besides, I think you, Chief Blanchett, also want to see Philid happy. Jason spoke up. Chief Blanchett couldn't help but shake his head. You know, he couldn't persuade the Elder Samuel at the beginning. He even had a big quarrel with him regardless of his identity as the chief. It was all in vain. With Jason, an outsider, how could the identity of Elder Samuel change his mind with such a determined attitude? What's more, those who can become 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters are extremely firm in character and rarely let others change their minds. But looking at Jason's firm expression and Loken's longing eyes, Chief Blanchett finally nodded. I can take you to see the Great Elder Samuel and make every effort. As for whether the Great Elder is willing to meet you and whether you can persuade him, it is not my decision. Blanchett said. However, I think as Master Jason, if we just meet once, there will be no problem. I wonder when you want to meet Elder Samuel? Loco looked at the anxious expression. Well, Jason smiled and said, I wonder if Blanchett is convenient now. Now? Looking at Jason, the Blanchett clan leader also smiled. Okay, in that case, Prince Tyeria, J. Masterson, just take my carriage back with me. Prince Tyeria stood up immediately and said with a smile, Master Jason, Chief Blanchett, this matter is now a family matter of your Gures family, I won't go there. Haha, today's matter, please trouble Prince Tyeria. Jason said with a smile. As the Prince of the Empire, Tyeria is responsible for helping Jason contact the Blanchett clan leader. The next thing is a matter between Jason and the Gures family, and it is difficult for Tyeria to get involved. Haha, Master Jason, why are you so polite to me? If you need anything in the capital, just come to me. Tyeria spoke out boldly. In the imperial capital, Jade City, at the entrance of the Gures family mansion. A luxurious and huge carriage slowly stopped at the door. The two guards at the gate bowed immediately when they saw the familiar carriage and the logo on the carriage. As the guards of the Gures family, how could these two people not recognize the carriage of their clan leader? Haha, Master Jason, let's go. The familiar voice of the patriarch came. 3 people immediately got off the carriage, and then led by the leader Blanchett, they walked into the mansion from the main entrance. Lord Patriarch. The 2 guards immediately bowed lower. After a few people entered the mansion, they raised their heads. Out of the corner of their eyes, they happened to catch a glimpse of the person walking at the end of the 3. This isn't this Loken? What's going on? The 2 guards were stunned for a moment, their eyes widened, and their expressions instantly turned to stone. Looking at the unfamiliar yet familiar front yard, Luo Kuan felt quite emotional. In the past 2 years, he has come to the Gura's family mansion twice a month, and every time he can only stand outside the mansion door. Only 2 years ago, he forced his way into the front yard, but then he was kicked out by Depp, and now he finally came in openly for the first time. Chief Blanchette brought Jason and Loken to the Gura's family's living room. At his instruction, the maid in the living room immediately served them good tea and some pastries. Master Jason, Loken, please wait a moment, I will inform Elder Samuel now. After the arrangements were made, Chief Blanchette smiled. Chief Blanchette, please excuse me. Jason nodded. Blanchette disappeared behind the living room in an instant, while Jason was sipping tea and looking at some paintings hanging in the living room. As for Loken, he was waiting nervously. Hey, are there guests in the living room? Not long after Blanchette left, Jason suddenly heard an old voice coming from outside the living room door, and then a middle-aged man walked in from outside. Lokuan, is it you? And you? After seeing Luokuan and Jason in the hall, the middle-aged man's face was stunned for a moment, and then he showed an angry look. Who is it? Who brought you two in? In the living room, Luo Kuan, who was feeling a little nervous, couldn't help but raise his head when he heard this familiar voice, and then his face turned pale. This man was none other than Felt's uncle, Depp, who had injured Loken twice. Sir, we are Loken knew Depp, but Jason didn't. He opened his mouth and was about to explain, but was interrupted by Depp. I don't care who brought you two in, you two, get out of here right now, especially you, Loken. Don't think that if you beat Clooney, our Gura's family will agree with you and Faye regarding Ruth. Let me tell you, this is a dream. Depp said coldly. Although he heard that Loken was going to be knighted by His Majesty Peter today, Elder Samuel was firmly opposed to the matter between Falut and Loken, so Depp was naturally confident and firmly supported it. In fact, if it were normal, Depp would have taken action himself, but he was only an 8th-level low-level Emperor Spirit Master. After seeing Jason's strength in the duel field, he naturally did not dare to take action casually. In the living room, Jason's brows immediately frowned. Depp, what's going on? At this moment, a cold and arrogant voice suddenly sounded in the hall. Then, a cold and arrogant man wearing simple linen clothes, with an indifferent face and eyes like bright stars, walked in from outside the living room. Casper, you came just in time. Seeing this cold and arrogant man, Depp immediately shouted, immediately drive them both out of the family mansion. This is Loken. It is the elder who was firmly opposed. The one with Felt, and the one who was his master, Jason, the core disciple of the Alchemist Tower, defeated the Map Patriarch of the Downey family with one move in the duel. I don't know who put them two away. It is really unreasonable to join our family. Depp was extremely excited when he saw Caswall. Caswall is the family's #1 genius, the first son of the Holy Land of the Empire, and an 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master. His strength is unfathomable. Although Jason is powerful, in Depp's heart, he is not Caswall's enemy at all. After hearing Depp's words, Caswall ignored Loken, who was standing aside, but cast his cold gaze on Jason in the living room. Are you Jason? A core disciple of the spiritual medicine master tower? He said coldly, and a powerful spiritual power suddenly escaped from his body, with endless fighting intent in his eyes. Are you? Jason frowned. From the other party, he felt an unparalleled strength, especially after the other party broke out his fighting spirit. That kind of power was like the rising tide of sea water, flowing one by one. The dicks kept coming towards Jason, and it was extremely terrifying. The first holy son of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire, Caswall, the 8th-level senior emperor, spiritual master. Caswall said coldly, but there was a hint of excitement on the corner of his mouth. I heard that your excellency defeated the Map Patriarch of the Downey family with one move in the duel. I am very curious. You are such a spiritual person. How strong are the core disciples of Medicine Master Pagoda? After the words fell, Caswall didn't have the slightest concern. and he attacked Jason brazenly. He struck Jason with a distant palm. Pfft. With this palm strike, the space trembled like a rod on the surface of a lake and then exploded. A large hole in the space, with a diameter of nearly 1 meter, appeared in front of everyone. The entire space rippled out. In these ripples, Caswell's right palm turned into a palm knife, and came to Jason's face like lightning, splitting Jason's head directly. Ah! Besides, Loken exclaimed, and Depp also stared at Jason with wide eyes. Did Jason, who was so powerful in the duel a few days ago, die like this? But he was killed by Cass. Wall split open Jason's head with his palm, but there was no trace of blood. Jason's figure slowly dissipated and turned out to be an afterimage. Caswell, I came to your Gura's family this time to the matter of Loken and felt on the other side of the living room. Jason's figure appeared again, shouting at Caswell. He came to the Gur's family this time mainly for the matter of Loken, and naturally he did not want to have any disputes or fights with members of the Gur's family. You are very fast, indeed there are 2 times. Caswell said excitedly, staring at Jason with his cold blue eyes. Take action, if you don't, you will be killed by me. Whoosh! Jason stared at Caswell all the time, but suddenly Jason felt his eyes blur. The figure of Cassinus, who was still more than 10 meters away, turned dreamy, and then, a shadow suddenly appeared in front of Jason. This Caswell is so fast. Jason was shocked. The opponent's speed was definitely the most terrifying one he had ever seen in his young life. Jason had never fought with Lanuigusan and Cassinus, and he didn't know that Caswell was better than the 2 of them. His speed is good, but it is definitely not as fast as Edmund's, who he fought against in the elixir ranking competition. Phew! Casper appeared, aimed at Jason's location, and struck with another palm. Boom! A terrifying coercion descended on the world, a powerful aura of spiritual power rushed out from Caswell's body, and an extremely cold force suddenly gathered in the palm of Caswell's right hand. Under this power, the palm of Caswell's right hand suddenly became crystal clear, like a piece of black ice. At the same time, an extremely powerful binding force enveloped Jason from all directions, blocking Jason's movements. Now, let's see how you can hide. Casper's cold voice rang in Jason's ears, and his palm struck directly at Jason's chest. If this move were to hit, even if Jason's body was astonishingly strong, it would be inevitable that he would be killed at this moment. Under the attack, he was seriously injured and even died. Damn it! Jason snorted coldly. In the living room, his body suddenly shook, and his right hand appeared in front of him in an instant. In a hurry, it cleaved with Caswell's palm like lightning. Pung! Caswell's jade-like palm struck Jason's right hand together, and a deep voice suddenly sounded, Pung! It was like a bubble bursting, and the originally distorted space exploded. Opening up, following the direction of the palm knife, a terrifying space crack was formed that was several meters long. A powerful force burst out all of a sudden, shaking everything in the living room to smithereens. Depp and Loken's bodies were shaken by spiritual power, and they almost spit out blood. Pung! Jason and Caswell each retreated. Because Jason responded in a hurry, he was bombarded all of a sudden and hit the wall of the living room directly. Only a loud explosion was heard, and the solid bricks, a large crater with a diameter of several meters, was directly blasted out of the stone wall. The entire masonry wall was directly cracked, a large amount of gravel flew, and then collapsed. Jason, on the other hand, was directly chopped out by Caswell's sword, plowing a deep ravine inside, and came outside the living room. Whoosh! In the living room, Depp's face was a little pale, and he flew away all of a sudden, and then looked at it from a distance. He didn't want to be killed by the powerful spirit released by Jason and Caswell during the battle. Too much strength and death. Master! Loken looked at the smoke-filled Jason with a worried and nervous look on his face. He flew out with a nervous look on his face. Outside the living room, Jason stood there with a somewhat cold expression. Although he was blasted out, he was not injured because of his hasty response. Seeing this scene, Loken immediately breathed a sigh of relief and stood together with Jason. What's going on? In the backyard, the huge sound suddenly alerted many guards and members of the Gers family. Suddenly, many people looked here in astonishment and rushed towards the side crazily. Everyone, move away. Caswell's rumbled voice came out, and his eyes looked at Jason with excitement. Okay, very good, as expected. Caswell became excited, and at the same time he floated into the sky, staring at Jason below. Come on, have a fight with the cutter, let me see, you are so spiritual. It's really exciting how strong the core disciples of the Medicine Master Tower are. As the first holy son of the Empire's Holy Land, Caswell is an extremely militant person, with the blood of fighting flowing in his body. Now seeing Jason's strength, he was naturally extremely excited. Although in the Holy Land, all the sons were warned not to challenge Jason without reason, otherwise they would be severely punished, but who is Caswell? The first holy son of the Holy Land. The eldest son of the Gers family, the first family in the Salem Empire. With his status, even if he disobeys the warning of the Holy Land, there will not be much punishment. You must know that Samuel, the eldest elder of the Gers family, himself, he is the elder of the Holy Land of the Empire. Of course, Caswell, who was extremely bellicose, could not consider this at this time. He was so excited and belligerent that he had completely forgotten the warning of the Holy Land at this moment. The Gers family mansion is located in the east city of the imperial capital. All the nobles of the empire live here. Naturally, there are many strong people who look after the house and the courtyard. The huge movement in the Gers family mansion and the rumbling shouts of Casper, the sound immediately alarmed everyone in the area. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, in the Dongqing district of the imperial capital, many figures rose up from their respective mansions, watching from a distance. Most of them were 8th-level emperor spiritual masters, and there were also many 7th-level emperors. Spiritualist. And some people who had not reached the 7th-level imperial spiritual master were standing in their own yards and on the street, looking up at the cold and proud figure above the Gers family mansion. It's Casper from the Gers family. It seems he's fighting with someone. These people were filled with doubts and were talking among themselves. Casper, my master, and I came to your family this time to find something to do with the great elder Samuel of your family. In the open space behind the Gers family's living room, Loken, standing next to Jason, explained. Your name is Loken, right? It's none of your business here, so get out of my way quickly, otherwise, I'll accidentally kill you later, which will be bad. In the sky, Caswell said coldly, Jason, if you have the guts, come out and fight. Let me see what you are capable of as a core disciple of the Elixir Master Tower. Don't worry, I won't. The one who killed you just wanted to fight you. Casper, stop, Master, and I are leaving now. Lokuan immediately said anxiously. As the first holy son of the Empire's Holy Land and an 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master, he can be said to be the #1 genius in the Salem Empire. That name is really too big. Lokuan would rather not see the great elder, and don't want his master to be harmed because of what happened between him and Felt. However, before Loken could finish speaking, he was stopped by Jason's right hand. Master. Loken looked at Jason in shock. Loken, get out of the way and fly away. Jason took a step forward and said indifferently. At the same time, he slowly lifted into the air and came to the opposite side of Caswell. He had already seen that Caswell and himself were the same kind of people. Once they decided something, no one can stop it. At this moment, Jason and Caswell looked at each other in midair. Their eyes seemed to collide in midair. You want to spar with me? As you wish. Jason's eyes were cold. I also want to know how much you, the so-called first holy son of the Holy Land, weigh. Jason, the one opposite Caswell, is Jason. Sure enough, it was him. I also went to watch the battle between Loken and Clooney. It was him who defeated the Map Patriarch of the Downey family with one move. I heard that Jason is the core disciple of the Alchemist Tower. Why did he confront Caswall? Casper versus Jason? The number one holy son of the Empire versus the core disciple of the Alchemist Tower. Oh my god. Many people in the entire Dongqing district were shocked when they thought of this possibility, and then became extremely excited. Oh my god, these two geniuses are obviously going to have a decisive battle with determination. This is the genius. Many people in the Imperial City went to watch the previous battle between Loken and Clooney. But the battle between Loken and Clooney and the battle between Jason and Caswall are fundamentally on two levels. One is the first holy son of the Holy Land of the Empire and an 8th-level high-level Imperial Spiritual Master, and the other is a core disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. He defeated Patriarch Matt, an 8th-level intermediate Imperial Spiritualist, with one move. The battle between the two of them was definitely a decisive battle between the two top geniuses in the entire Stern continent. This war is about to begin. Haha, okay, I hope you won't disappoint me. In the sky, Caswall looked at Jason with a smile on his face. This sentence should have been said by the referee. Jason said coldly. Arrogant. Caswall's face was cold. Be careful, don't be killed by me. Obviously, Caswall was too confident. Jason laughed lightly. Phew. At this moment, Caswall suddenly moved, and an astonishing pressure suddenly rushed out of his body. Under this pressure, the ice spiritual elements within a kilometer radius instantly rioted, condensed into a huge hand of ice elements in the void, and slammed it at Jason. With this blow, Caswall did not hold back at all, and used all his strength. Suddenly, the temperature in Dongqing district seemed to have suddenly dropped by dozens of degrees. Ice elemental power was raging in the sky, and everyone was trembling in the cold wind. Kakaka. The huge elemental hand fell down, and the entire sky collapsed. The void was twisted and broken like a mirror, and it instantly came to Jason's head. Facing Caswall's violent blow, Jason's ball of 5-color divine light suddenly burst out from his eyes. He took a step forward in the void. Driven by the spiritual god Art, the 5 elements of spiritual power in his body ran wildly. He aimed at the elemental handprint cast by Caswall, and then it was a punch. Endless spiritual power aura shot up from Jeremiah's body into the sky, connecting heaven and earth. The spiritual power elements in the surrounding air suddenly became violent, as if they were trapped in an ocean of spiritual power, and 5-color divine light illuminated half of the sky. Sora, boom! A deafening roar sounded, and the strong man of the Imperial capital floating in the air saw Jason's tall and majestic body rushing forward, and a huge 5-color fist suddenly appeared in the void, hitting Caswall hard. On top of the ice element handprint displayed. Boom! With the huge explosion, the entire sky seemed to shake under this blow. Endless spiritual power elements exploded. The terrifying and powerful spiritual power formed a violent spiritual power storm like countless sharp swords, surging in all directions, blowing the bodies of some weak 7th-level Imperial spiritual masters in the distance to shake. What a terrifying power! In everyone's horrified eyes, Jason's 5-color fist and Caswall's ice giant palm trembled in the sky, and then cracks appeared like fragile glass, and then they shattered. Dots of spiritual energy of various colors scattered in the sky. Under the sunlight, Jason and Caswall looked like two gods. They are actually evenly matched. Yes, the elemental hand seal that can block my full blow shows that you do have the strength of an 8th-level senior Imperial spiritual master. Caswall said coldly, with a tone like a teacher testing the strength of his disciples. You want to defeat me just by relying on elemental hand seals? That's ridiculous. Jason sneered. Elemental handprints are just a manifestation of the strength of the spiritual master's spiritual power. They are only related to the level and attributes. What is really strong for a master is actually a mysterious attack, or a unique spiritual skill that contains the mysterious laws of elements. Elemental handprints can usually only defeat more powerful ones. A spiritual master whose level is weak. The reason why Caswell used elemental hand seals to attack before was actually an insult to Jason. In the sky, Jason and Caswell looked at each other with vigilance in their eyes. No matter how confident and contemptuous of each other they were in their words, it was undeniable that after the previous simple confrontation, both sides put each other on the back. The same height as myself. The air in the entire sky seemed to be condensed, and there was a terrible depression that made all the people looking up and watching feel unable to breathe. In the sky, Jason slowly drew out the black heavy sword from behind. "It was you who was attacking before, now it's my turn." After the words fell, Jason took a step forward, and the strange black power in his body began to move according to the mystery of the god-destroying art, evolving in his body and moving his heart. Boom. At this moment, an inexplicable domineering spirit naturally emerged from Jason. A kind of self-respecting spirit rushed out of him, and his fighting spirit made people tremble. In an instant, the whole world was in riot, and the endless 5 elements of spiritual power poured into Jason's body like a flood. In an instant, the spiritual power throughput in Jason's body increased several times, and there was an inexplicable pressure. It descended from the sky and enveloped this world. The black heavy sword in Jason's hand suddenly lit up, and 5 colors of divine light were flowing. Feeling this tyrannical power, Casper, whose expression was always as cold as ice in the sky, couldn't help but change color slightly, and then his eyes shone with excitement. He also slowly drew out the crystal-clear blue sword from his waist, which looked like a piece of jade. Boom! The robe on Caswell's body suddenly fluttered, and the long blue hair flying all over the sky was flying wantonly. In the blue eyes, there seemed to be 2 aurora flowing, and the electricity shot out 2 blue divine lights. At the same time, a dazzling blue light burst out from the long sword in his hand. The dazzling blue light suddenly made the long sword in his hand as dazzling as the sun. The dazzling light caused everyone below to squint their eyes. In the sky, Jason and Caswell stood proudly. God-destroying killing technique, 5 elements reincarnation, kill. Suddenly, Jason shouted loudly, his eyes were like lightning, bursting with light, his body was like an ancient demon ape, he jumped out, and the black heavy sword in his hand turned into a black streak. The long dragon aimed at Caswell and struck out like lightning. Boom! At this moment, under Jason's attack, the whole world changed color. The terrifying spiritual power, containing terrifying pressure, swallowed up everything at once, like a rolling tide, rushing towards Caswell. Past. At the same time, Caswell on the opposite side also raised the dreamy long sword in his hand high. A large amount of ice energy continued to gather between his fists, condensed into a point, and then suddenly swung it down. The cold voice seemed to come from Jojo, rumbling in the sky. The mystery of ice dragon soars to the 9 heavens. Boom! In the explosion, the whole world seemed to have turned into a world of ice and snow. Everyone's eyes were instantly filled with white. The long sword in Caswell's hand suddenly turned into a roaring snow-white ice dragon that soared for 9 days, and attacked Jason fiercely. In everyone's horrified eyes, the eternal black dragon and the dazzling and extremely cold white ice dragon collided in the sky above Dongqing district. Pung! Violent and terrifying power burst out in all directions from the impact point. The 2 astonishing forces collided. In an instant, the entire world lost its light, and successive void explosions sounded, lighting up the entire imperial capital. What's going on? What happened? In the imperial palace, feeling the shocking explosion in the distance, His Majesty Peter suddenly looked at the Gura's family mansion, with a trace of anger on his face. Buzz. Deep in the palace, a powerful spiritual consciousness suddenly dispersed and flew towards the location of the explosion. After a moment, a deep voice whispered in Peter's ears, "Your Majesty Peter, it's Casper of the Gura's family and Jason of the Alchemist Tower who are fighting." Do you want to stop them? The two of them are fighting. 1. His Majesty Peter frowned slightly, and then said, "No, I don't think anything will happen. Samuel of the Gura's family will not be unaware of such a big movement. If anything happens, he will take action." That's true of Caswall. The Holy Land strictly forbids the Holy Sons from taking action against Master Jason, but he actually doesn't listen. Although Master Jason is the core disciple of the Alchemist Tower, he is the #1 Holy Son of our Saren Empire. People, how can he be his opponent? It's so bellicose that it's a headache. His Majesty Peter shook his head but no longer paid attention. In the sky above the Gers family mansion, continuous explosions spread across the sky, and the violent spiritual power blew everything in the mansions below into a mess. Many ordinary people standing on the street watching from a distance were all knocked to the ground by this impact. They all looked at the two powerful men in the sky in shock. At this time, Jason and Caswall, the two men, were still facing each other in silence. Both of them looked a little pale. The God-destroying technique, the 5 elements of reincarnation. The secret of ice, the dragon soars to the 9 heavens. Once again, there was no winner. Caswall's eyes lit up when he saw Jason, and he burst into laughter. "Haha, okay, it's really strong. You didn't disappoint me. I'm so excited." Caswall trembled all over. That is the trembling of excitement, the trembling of excitement, the trembling of meeting an opponent. "Jason, you really have a problem. I underestimated you at first. I have to admit that you have the ability to let me use all my strength. Then, let you see Cass, the first son of our empire. Wall's true strength." Caswall looked at Jason calmly, his eyes full of dignity, and the blue light was constantly flowing. At this moment, a blue light suddenly appeared. At the same time, Caswall's whole body was filled with anger. It also continued to rise, and the entire world was filled with ice spiritual power. The entire Dongqing district turned into a blue, and the void could not help but tremble. Caswall's whole body bloomed with blue light, and a strong aura continued to rise from his body, and then buzz. An invisible ripple emanated from Caswall's body, and in Jason's perception, the world seemed to have turned into a world of ice and snow in an instant. Countless snowflakes were flying between the sky and the earth, and the entire surrounding space was bound. To be precise, Caswall placed the entire space above the Gura's family mansion. The ice spiritual element was completely controlled. This is the unique fighting space of Caswall, an 8th-level advanced ice-type imperial spiritual master, the ice-type elemental barrier. At the same time, the snowflakes all over the sky seemed to suddenly come to life, spinning around Caswall in the elemental barrier, resonating with the sword in Caswall's hand. "Jason, be careful, this is the world of ice that I understand based on the law of ice elements." Caswall made a cold and arrogant voice. Over the Gura's family mansion, Caswall stood proudly in the sky like a god of war. Countless blue and pure white 6-sided snow wawas, like cherry blossoms flying all over the sky in autumn, were constantly rotating around him, gorgeous, beautiful, exuding an amazing chill. The world of ice, it's the world of ice. Oh my god, it's really the world of ice. In order to deal with Jason, Caswall actually used the world of ice. That requires understanding the power of the original law of ice. Only by controlling the unique mysteries of ice laws can we unleash the elemental world. The power is astonishing. Some 8th-level imperial spiritual masters who were watching around suddenly exclaimed. As strong men in the imperial capital, they knew more or less the moves of Caswall, the empire's first holy son. When they saw, everyone couldn't help but be shocked when Caswall actually used World of Ice. World of Ice, absolute control of space, which represents a profound attainment in the understanding of the law, shocked the world. All the people in the entire imperial capital who were watching this battle from a distance were filled with surprise. At the same time, they also looked at Jason on the opposite side, wanting to see how he would deal with this attack by Caswall, the first son of the Empire. One move. Is it the world of ice? In the sky, feeling the cold aura around him that was constantly oppressing him, almost seeping into his bones, Jason said indifferently. His expression did not waver at all, his eyes were as calm as water, and then suddenly he activated the golden spirit beads that were spinning slightly in his mind. Buzz. A unique golden wave spread out with Jason as the center, covering the world at the same time. The unique spiritual skill carried by the golden spirit bead is a golden element barrier. At the same time, Jason's aura continued to rise. In his body, the 5 elements of spiritual power were constantly flowing and transforming under the operation of the spiritual god art. Water produces wood, wood produces fire, fire produces earth, and earth produces metal. At this moment, all the 5 elements of spiritual power in Jason's body boiled. The golden spirit bead, wood spirit bead, and earth spirit bead also rotated rapidly. The 5 elements of spiritual power in Jason's body transformed into each other, and finally formed the spiritual power of the gold system. Jason's whole body bloomed with golden light, and a strong aura continued to rise from his body. Then he said, "Gigi world, give it to me." Jason roared. Buzz. Countless golden sword shadows flew out from Jason's body. Thousands of golden lights appeared over the entire Gers family. For a time, countless sword shadows floated. The original power of the golden law spread throughout the sky. Emerged, and then combined with the spiritual power released by Jason, it instantly condensed into a world of swords. In the sky, countless golden rays of light were like thousands of golden swords flying in the air, constantly rotating, trembling slightly, and the terrifying golden power spread out, causing the space to distort. Countless golden thin swords trembled like the fish swimming in the depths of the ocean, constantly spinning and flowing around Jason. The golden glow reflected Jason golden like a statue made of gold. People. Looking at this astonishing scene, the entire Dongqing district, and even the imperial capital, all the strong men who were watching the battle between Jason and Caswall from a distance were all shocked. In the world of swords, this Jason actually after displaying the world of swords in the golden law, each of them murmured with their eyes wide open and their mouths wide open, almost unable to believe their eyes, especially those who had reached the 8th Order Emperor spiritual master level. The metal spiritual master can even stuff an egg with his mouth wide open. Jason's world of swords gave them a hard-to-conceal shock. It is too difficult to condense the world of swords. It must be recognized by the origin law of the gold element. Controlling the law of the metal element is unique and mysterious. On the continent, many 8th-level advanced and even 8th-level peaks have been silent for countless years in the understanding of the metal law. None of the gold-type imperial spiritual masters could reach this level, but Jason showed it. The most shocked ones were the nobles who had participated in Loken's knighthood in the Lingwu Palace. Others didn't know, but they knew that Jason was only a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master. An imperial spiritual master who understood the world of swords. Are you kidding? That Jason must have lied in the Lingwu Palace. Yes, it must be that Jason can release the golden element barrier. He must be an 8th-level emperor spiritual master. They murmured in their hearts, keep telling yourself firmly, it seems that only in this way can you get some comfort. Although they also knew that the possibility of Jason lying was very low, because he had no need to lie at all. Boom. Boom. Kakaka. As soon as Jason's sword world condensed, it collided with the ice world released by Caswall. 2 elemental worlds with different attributes appeared in the sky. They are constantly intertwined and colliding, making subtle popping and cracking sounds, like 2 ice layers constantly squeezing on the lake, constantly breaking at the edges, and finally reaching a balance. The sky above the entire Gura's family, at this moment, completely turned into 2 colors. One side was golden and dazzling, and the other side was blue, icy and extremely cold, competing with each other and refusing to give in. World of Swords. In the sky, Caswall also had a solemn expression, but deep in his eyes, there was a faint hint of excitement. Caswall, am the first holy son of the Holy Land of the Empire. I have challenged every holy son and fought countless gold spiritual masters, but I have never encountered one who can unleash a world of swords as famous as my world of ice. Now, finally, one has appeared, haha. It's really exciting. I really want to know which of these two worlds, yours and mine, is stronger. You'll know once you try it. Jason stared at Caswall. Okay. Casper shouted loudly. His excited eyes suddenly became determined. The law of ice, absolute zero, diamond stardust, frozen world. A voice as cold as a god came from Caswall's mouth. Caswall's whole body exuded a dazzling light. Originally, Caswall's body, the romantic snowflakes that were constantly spinning and floating on the side suddenly turned into sharp ice blades, ice picks, and ice knives all over the sky, aiming at Jason crazily. Well done! Jason shouted loudly, with sharp eyes. The law of swords, thousands of swords return to the clan, cut the space, and form a world of their own. Thousands of golden swords were spinning and densely packed around Jason. At this moment, under Jason's command, like the huge shoal of swimming fish in the sea, it flew towards Caswall crazily. Boom! 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 There were bursts of harsh piercing sounds in the air. Caswall and Jason controlled the ice blades and golden swords in the sky, and each attacked the other. The sword light and ice light that filled the sky annihilated everything, the air was frozen, and countless tiny cracks in space appeared. Such an astonishing scene, with the terrifying laws of gold and ice escaping, left everyone present stunned. Boom! 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 The earth-shattering explosion resounded throughout the entire capital of the Salem Empire in an instant. Huge space cracks appeared in the sky one after another. In the explosion, the violent spiritual power was like 10,000 thousands of sharp swords burst out in all directions, hitting the surrounding strong men who were watching. Boom! Boom! Some strong men who were close were accidentally affected by the escaping spiritual power. Their faces turned pale and even spurted out blood. Among them were some weak. The Imperial Spiritual Master at the highest level was not paying attention for a moment. He was so shocked that he vomited blood and fell from the sky like a dumpling. Back off quickly, get out of the way quickly. Horrified roars rang over the Dongqing district. Facing the amazing spiritual power released by the two people fighting, many strong men retreated crazily, with horror on their faces. It was so scary. Jason and Ka, the attacks of Saiwal and the two men were really terrifying. They had almost reached the peak of the 8th level. Even the aftermath of the battle was not something ordinary Emperor Spirit Masters like them could withstand. Haha, good, happy. During the explosion, Caswall let out an excited shout. He and Jason attacked each other wildly. They were evenly matched, and no one could do anything to the other. In that case, Caswall, his eyes condensed, the world of ice, condense, the sword of the world. The two worlds originally collided with each other, but suddenly the world controlled by Caswall shrank rapidly and kept shrinking, but similarly, the density of ice elements became higher, and finally turned into a stick more than 10 meters long. Like a giant sword made of Xianbing, it was suspended in front of Caswall. The giant sword, which is more than 10 meters long, completely accommodates the ice world. There is no waste of energy, and it is extremely concentrated. This is the complete form of the ice world. Jason, I admit that you are very strong, but my ice world has reached its perfect form, so let you lose to the sword of my world. Caswall shouted confidently. Ridiculous. Jason sneered, his eyes bursting with unprecedented brilliance. Ning. Jason also shouted in a low voice. As Jason spoke out, the world of swords that originally covered half of the sky quickly shrank. Countless golden sword energies continued to shrink and condense, and then also formed a sword in front of Jason. A huge golden sword nearly 10 meters long. The nearly 10-meter-long golden giant sword completely contained the world of swords. The highly condensed energy vibrated, and the space at the edge of the sword blade was directly cut into black cracks by the automatically dissipated sword energy. What? You also condensed the sword of the world? Caswell exclaimed, okay, then let's see who is stronger. Stop talking nonsense and come on. Jason only has his opponent in his eyes. The two of them each hold the sword of the world, and their eyes are facing each other, exuding amazing fighting spirit and aura. The blue giant sword in front of Caswell is severely cold and eternally frozen. From the cold to the strong. The golden giant sword in front of Jason is violent and condensed, extremely sharp, and extremely strong. Broken. End it. Both of them shouted, and each waved the giant sword in his hand.